Here's a situation where I shoot my triangle, bam, and he automatically blocks here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to point my fingers so that I can dig inside his elbow. You know, it's going to be tough because it may be kind of tight here, so I'm going to just take my fingers, I'm going to point them, make them nice and pointy so I can dig them inside his elbow. Now I'm going to put my arm all the way through, elbow deep, and catch. As I catch, I'm going to pull it to me. Now I'm going to trap his wrist and his hand right in between my ear and my shoulder and pinch it inside here. Now I want to make sure I have space in between my stomach and his arm, and I lock up the elbow crush. You can also, if you have the triangle locked up, and let's say maybe he's turning this way, I can actually take this arm as well. Not a problem. I'm just going to come under, take this arm, and I can finish on that side. As long as you keep his wrist and his hand in between your ear and your shoulder, you can take the opposite side as well. Make sure you keep your knees tight, keep your knees squeezed. No matter which arm you have, your knees have to be tight. Everything has to be squeezed in. My knees are tight and I'm kicking my heels down towards my butt. Everything's tight. So whether I'm on this side or this side, all of them rules apply. Now in fast motion, ladies and gentlemen, this combination here will work 100% of the time if you do this one right. Okay, it's going to start from the arm triangle position, and for whatever reason, the opponent's just not tapping. Your shoulder may not be deep enough, he may be too strong, his shoulders may be a little too big, but for whatever reason, he is just not cooperating, and that happens a lot. So I'll start off in the arm triangle position, and he's just not willing to tap. I'm squeezing, I'm doing everything, I'm getting off on the side. Now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to scoot out a little bit more so that I can actually look over his back and grab his wrist. Let me scoot over a little bit. Let me explain this. I'm starting here and I can't get the finish. I can't quite get the angle that I need. So I'm going to scoot out a little bit more, still stay tight, and I'm going to grab the wrist. All right, and I'm going to hold on to the wrist to keep him from getting out of this position. Now once I have the wrist, I'm going to take my other hand, I'm holding the wrist under his neck, and take my other hand, I'm going to shoot it in between his legs. I'm going to grab his leg, and while I grab his leg, I'm just going to spin my back underneath his body. To here. Pulling my head in between his legs. So I have control of the wrist, pull it up, I'm going to grab underneath his thigh, and I'm going to spin underneath his body. Now from here, I'm just going to pendulum sweep him over all the way up. Just a tad. Now, as I sweep him over, what happens is, you know, in transition, whether it's this transition or any other transition, you have a tendency to create space and scramble position. So you want to be on top of that, especially from this type of sweep. You want to be on top of it so that you can work the combination properly. So as I sweep him over, I'm coming up on top of him here. And as you notice, I'm probably going to leave a little bit of space. So knowing that I'm going to leave a little bit of space, I'm going to start to work my submission now. So as soon as I come up on top of him here, I don't want to let him go or roll all the way to his knees. Once I get on top, I'm going to take my arm, come underneath his arm, still working his grip, and get in position for the arm bar. So as I come up on top, I don't want to create too much space to where he's able to get to his knees and get out. Still controlling this arm, take this arm, come underneath the arm, I'm going to change my angle. So now I'm facing the same direction as his face is going. Then I'm going to step over his head, sit down, some knees together, and arm bar. Now let's do it in full speed. One of the most common defenses in order to get out of the arm triangle is for him to reach up and grab his leg. Okay, so if I have an arm triangle on him here, and he reaches up and grabs his leg, I'm not going to get the arm triangle. So you got to have the combination, the next best step, the next best thing to do once this happens. So I start here, I'm trying to finish with the arm triangle. He reaches up and grabs the leg. What I'm going to do is I'm going to release the head and secure his arm. Here. Now I'm going to push his face down. As I push his face down, I'm going to step my leg up to put my shin on his ribs. Once my shin comes on the ribs, I'm going to lean forward for balance, then step over his head, sit and finish with the arm bar. Now the key is to making it work. You gotta make it, you gotta sell it, make it work for real. Once you have the arm triangle here, sell it, keep pushing. This is gonna keep him tight on his leg, which is gonna extend his arm away from his body, and that's exactly what you want. So I'm here. Now, I feel him. He's really believing this. Come up. Ooh. Knee in. Balance. Step over and finish. Let's do it at full speed. Now I'm going to show you guys how to do an Anaconda to a Peruvian necktie, starting from the front headlock position. Start from the front headlock position. I'm going to attempt to do an Anaconda choke. I'm trying to get the Anaconda in, and he just pulls his arm out. Let's say I can't push his arm across his neck. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes they're just that strong, or sometimes they just find that little bit of space and are able to slide their arm back. Once he slides his arm back, it's over. It's a wrap. You can no longer put that arm across his neck once he gets it all the way out. So I'm pushing it across, he gets it all the way out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my grip underneath his neck. Once that happens, I'm just going to slide. If I'm here and I've been trying to push this inside here and he gets it out, that's okay. I'm just going to change my grip and put my hands here. So I change my grip, and then this hand from under the head is going to, because the Anaconda is on the outside of his arm. So I change my grip, I slide this hand underneath his neck now. And then I grab my hand underneath here. So this one's going to come underneath his neck with my wrist, underneath his chin. This is going to come over the top. So I'm attempting to put this across. No longer works. This is going to slide under his chin here. This is going to come over the top. Now I'm going to step up past his head. Step up past his head. Then I'm going to sit. And finish my Peruvian necktie. Now let's do that at full speed. Okay, now we're going to work on another combination. It's very important. I can't stress it enough how important it is for you to have options from specific situations. Because if you just leave it to chance, then there's a good chance that you ain't going to get it. That's just the bottom line. So you want to have the knowledge and the particular submission that you want to go to for every situation. Okay, now here's the situation here. I'm in my guard. I'm going up. I'm going for the guillotine. I have the arm controlled in this type of guillotine, and I can finish here. Now, in order for me to finish, I need to get my hips out to the side. Now, let's say he blocks my hips from coming out the side, and he squares me up. Now, flat on my back here. It's going to be hard to get the submission. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the grip around his head and control his wrist. Because he's reaching up. He's blocked my hip. Now he's trying to break free of my hands. He's reaching to take my hands from under his neck. But what that does, it gives me access to his hands. So I'm going to grab his hand here, as he's trying to break mine off, I'm going to grab his and push it inside my leg. So from here, have it, push it down, and come over his shoulder as I push his arm through. I'm going to come over his shoulder. From here, I have the triangle locked up. I'm going to hold his head, stand the hips, and finish. Now the key is once I'm flat on my back, here, here like this, I'm not going to finish this guillotine from here. There's just too many things wrong with it. So now, I want to clear space for my leg to come outside. It's going to come all the way out, over the shoulder. Once I get it over the shoulder, raise the hips, keep his head down, and bam, finish the triangle. Now full speed. Okay, now here's the situation where it's going to work off of a failed guillotine. All right, I'm going to start here in the guillotine position. Let's say he hops over a leg. Now he's starting to hop over the other leg. And from here, it's going to be hard to finish the guillotine. And he's going to pass my guard. So you have only a couple options. One, you can just bail out of the whole position and start over. But because you have this, and I'm giving you this option now, I'm giving you an option, a submission off of this position, off the failed guillotine here. As he's coming around, I'm going to grab his chin. This is probably the most important part of the technique, is chin control. Very important. Don't eliminate this step. If you eliminate this step, it won't work. Alright, so he's coming around. I'm grabbing the chin. I'm going to pull it up just so I have chin control. Before he settles me down to my back, I'm going to take this arm and come underneath this way. So I'm holding his chin, keeping him looking away. I'm going to come underneath with my other hand and wrap around his neck. Here. Now, chances are he's still going to be passing, pushing you back. I'm going to grab my bicep, hand on his back, and as we fall, I squeeze. Okay, so as I'm holding the chin, coming through here, as I'm going back, lock up the lock, and you can finish there. If he passes your guard, it doesn't matter because you have the submission. So one more time, as he's passing, I'm holding the chin, pulling it away, reaching up, here, locking my arms, hand on the back, and finishing. And if you don't think it works, try it. I dare somebody to try to pass my guard from a guillotine from here, because I'm going to lock it up. Now let's do it in fast motion. Alright, I'm going to work from a reverse triangle to a burnt French fry choke. I start from the reverse triangle. For some reason, this guy just don't want to tap. I'm doing everything I need to do. I'm squeezing. He just don't want to tap. So when you get in a situation where a guy doesn't want to tap, it makes no sense to keep working it. Alright, especially if you're using, proper technique, or you feel you've got proper technique on him and it's just not working. He's just being strong. Maybe his shoulders are a bit big. What I'm going to do from here, I just want to change my attack. I'm going to reach up. I'm going to try to keep his posture down as much as I can. I don't want him to power out of this. So I'm going to reach up. I'm going to grab my shin. I'm just going to release my grip with my feet. I'm going to grab my shin. And I'm going to pull it. As I pull, I open my knee. And I pull it all the way through underneath his chin. So I'm going to put the top of my ankle underneath his chin. Now I'm going to take my other foot. And I'm going to put the back of my knee behind his head. And I'm just going to squeeze. When you have that foot underneath his chin, you have to lock your foot out. Don't just leave it lazy, because then he'll be able to get it. I'm going to lock it out here. The other foot's going to come on top and scissor his neck. And you have to do it hard, because it won't work if you don't do it hard enough. So now, this comes underneath. Don't let him posture too much. Comes underneath his chin. I'll flex my foot. This comes behind his neck, and I try to touch my feet together. Now full speed. Okay, now this situation, I'm starting from a guillotine. It's a different situation where, again, he's pushing off on the hips, but I'm putting so much pressure on his neck that I'll get him to turn his neck a lot, okay? And the more he turns his neck, the better the combination is going to work. So that's the key, is to get him to turn his head here, and his neck will be in the right position in order to finalize this choke. Start with the guillotine. He's pushing away, and he turns his head to get the pressure off. Again, act fast so he doesn't slip his head out. You don't want to let him slip his head out. So as he turns his head, his neck's in the right position. I'm going to just take the opposite hand, and I'm going to slide it right in between where my arm and his shoulder meet. So start here, the combination. I slide this hand in here to where my bicep hits him right in underneath the throat. I come. Bicep's going to slide right underneath the throat. Then I'm going to grab my bicep here, pull the arm out, finalize the lock. Okay, now the key is once he turns his head, slide that hand through this way. If his head's inside here, and I'm holding the guillotine here, turns his head, I'm going to slide this through, then finalize the lock. Now full speed. Okay, I have a guillotine. I have a standing guillotine on my opponent. Now, in order for me to finish, I'm gonna need to have my hips in good position and be able to squeeze around on his neck. Now, he knows this. I know he knows this because he's gonna push off on my hips, and that's gonna create enough space for him in order to get out and pry his head out, or so on and so forth. So what I want to do is I have the guillotine. He puts his hands on my hips to start to get out. Now, if I let him out too far, he'll get out. So what I want to do is I want to react fast enough so he can't get out. Also, I want to move while his hands are still on my hips, because if they're on my hips, they're not protecting his neck. So that's a perfect time for me to move on this. So I'm working the guillotine here. Now, as I'm working the guillotine, I'm going to release my grip once his hands are here and right before he gets out. So I'm going to release my grip with the guillotine, and I'm going to reach up and I'm going to grab my wrist. So I have a guillotine here. As he's pulling out, I'm going to release that and then grab my wrist here. This hand is going to come and I'm going to put it right on top of my shoulder or my bicep tricep area, depending on how far I can reach, depending on perhaps maybe how big his neck is, or there are a lot of different factors that's going to determine where I can reach. So I have the grip here. I'm going to release, come here and here. Then I'm going to pull my elbows in and cinch this down. Elbows come in, then cinch this down. I want to close in on his neck and make it as tight as I possibly can. So I'm here, he's pushing off. I don't want him to push off too far to get out. I'm going to release, I'm going to grab here, put this behind his neck, elbows come together, and I squeeze. So I come here, elbows come together, and I squeeze and cinch that down. Now, once I get here, in fact, this is a tighter choke than the original guillotine itself. So this could be a perfect setup in order to make this one happen. Not just a combination, because if I'm trying to finish here, it's a perfect setup for me to finish here. All right, so let's do it in fast motion. Okay, now I'm starting from the guillotine. Now, he's going to defend. There's many different ways he can defend. He can push off on my hips. He can come over the top. He can jump up on me. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start the guillotine. And in this particular situation, he's going to defend by just turning his head and starting to pull down on my hands. Okay, so I need to have a combination that goes good with this situation. So I'm working the guillotine. He's pulling down on my hands. He's turning his head. what I'm going to do is I'm going to shuck his head by. Now, you don't want to give too much space. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of space now so that you can see the process. But in the reality of it is that you don't want to give too much space. So when I'm here, I don't want to come way back like this to get his head by because he'll bail out. So I get here, I want to give just a little bit of space, and I'm going to use my bicep to push it across. I'm also going to take chin control with the other hand. So I'm here as he's fighting the hands off. I'm losing a position. I'm going to switch hands. I'm going to take chin control with the other hand, and I'm going to use my bicep to shuck his head underneath my other armpit. So I'm working, chin control with the other hand, shuck it by. Now I can finish with the guillotine here. I can also do a guillotine on the stomach. So as he's fighting the hands off, I can come, as I get chin control here, I can come underneath the chin with both hands and finish in this way. All right, now the key, again, is not to give too much space. Just pass it along as you get chin control with the other hand and stuff it underneath your head, or you can finish right here on the sternum. Now at full speed. Let's work on this crucifix from the failed guillotine attempt. Now here's your combination. You're going to start off going for the guillotine. You get here. And for whatever reason, you came back. Now look, I'm a little flat on my hips. It's not going to work. Or let's just say I started off on my side. He squared me back up. And it's not going to work. This guillotine's not going to work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to release my grip underneath his head. And the arm that's around his head will come underneath his opposite arm bar, or his opposite armpit. So I'm coming underneath his armpit here. But I'm keeping this tight on the back of his neck. Don't just come under here and leave him space to get out. So once you feel like you can't get the guillotine, open your hands and come underneath here. I'm going to dig that elbow in deep. You don't want to just come in and be lazy. Dig it in deep. Here. Now I'm going to grip my hands. I'm going to turn this hand backwards. The one that's underneath the armpit, I'm going to turn backwards. I don't want to do it this way. I'm going to turn it backwards. You notice, if I just do it like this, look how I can't get a lot of pressure. If I turn it backwards, look how much pressure I get. A lot of pressure turning it backwards. So I'm going to turn my hand backwards. I'm going to reach up, get my grip. Now, once I have my grip, I'm going to put my elbow on the top of his shoulder because I want to get a push-pull motion going. So I'm going to put it on the top of his shoulder, and I'm going to push off his shoulder here as I pull this one up. That's going to get a lot of pressure on the back of his neck and his shoulders. So coming under, turning the hand backwards, and I'm coming here. I don't want to just pull here. You can pull here and finish. Don't get me wrong. You can pull here and finish. But you're going to get a lot more pressure coming here. So I'm going to put my elbow on the inside of my body. I'm going to push off his one shoulder as I pull the other shoulder. Also what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend my legs. When you normally guillotine a person, you don't want to extend your legs. You want to keep them closer to you, and then the pressure's in the rotation. With this type of submission, I want to extend him away from me. I'm going to stretch my legs. So when I come here, I'm tight here. This elbow is pushing down. I'm going to pull this shoulder, pull this shoulder, push this shoulder, and extend my legs to get the finish. I'm also crunching up on his body as well. I don't want to be down on my back here because I don't have a lot of strength. I'm going to come up to it, pull, push, and extend. Now fast motion. Okay, now in this particular situation, I'm starting from the guillotine, and the way he's going to defend here is he's going to push off on my hips to try to take away the pressure, and then give a little space, and then he'll probably start to work on my hands, push my elbow off, and get out of the guillotine. Okay, once he starts to push away on my hips and starts to turn his head to take off that pressure, There's your green light to go to switch to the next combination move. That next combination move will be a neck crank. So I start here, he's starting to push away the hips. I'm starting to feel like I'm losing the position as his head turns. I'm going to make an adjustment with my wrist. As I have his chin controlled here, I'm going to make an adjustment with my wrist. I'm going to slide my hand down on the side of his jaw and turn his head a little more. So his hands are on my hips, so this is going to make it easier because he's off on my hips. And his head is coming out. And that's a delicate situation, is that you want his head to come out a little bit, but not too much to where it slips out as you're attacking the move. So you only want to, you should be able to feel how far it can come. It's just barely slipping out of the armpit. Now once I start to get it in the right position, I'm going to turn his head here, put my wrist along the jaw, turn the head. Then I'm going to grab my forearm, put my hand on his shoulder, and I'm going to push a little more as I roll this up and push down on the side of his head for the neck lock. The neck crank rather. So I start here. As I feel him pushing away and getting out, that's my time to go. And I need to transition fast. So the transitioning will be slide the hand from underneath the neck to on the side of his face, twist, get the grip, and finish. Now full speed.